so excited. It just looks beautiful.
Yummy, Chef.
Oh, goodness, that aroma is fantastic. Oh, doesn't that look great? Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. I'm so excited today to be celebrating part of my history, Bundt pans. For 35 years I've been making recipes in my kitchen with these pans, and today I'm going to make 3 of my favorites. We're partnering with Toque Blanche and they are in California. We found each other on social media, so they've got a great giveaway at the end of the show. So our first recipe today is going to be a cinnamon nut pound cake. We're doing it in the large pan. It is going to be fantastic. And then we're going to do our chocolate chip pound cake in the little mini pans that are just adorable. And then I thought I would kind of dress it up a little bit, do something savory. So I'm going to do my favorite recipe of the 80s, my shrimp and tomato aspic. It's going to be garnished beautifully. And in Vera's Corner today, I'm going to give you some tips on which flour to use when you're baking. So we've got a lot to do. I need to get my apron on and get in that kitchen, get started on that cinnamon nut pound cake. All right, so the cinnamon nut pound cake was our September cake of the month in our mail order business. You know, we had a regular menu of cakes, but then to kind of dress it up a little bit, very much like the old bulletin boards that your teachers used to have when you were growing up in school, and the bulletin board changed on the first day of every month. Well, our customers loved the fact that every month they got a cake that they could only get during that month, and cinnamon nut was just perfect for like a coffee cake or a morning cake. It's just a really scrumptious cake. So we have made some friends along the way with our show with Instagram and Facebook, and Toque Blanche recognized us. They sell a beautiful line of Nordic pans, and so they have sent us 3 of their anniversary pans to use on the show today. So I'm very excited, and today at the end of the show we're going to give you a little hint on how you can get a discount on ordering from them. All right, so we're going to get this cake started, and I always knew my grandmother was going to make a pound cake when she would set all the ingredients out the night before. So your butter, your eggs, your milk, all of your cold ingredients need to be at room temperature. So I went ahead and got my room temperature butter, and this particular recipe uses 3 sticks of butter. So it's 1.5 cups, which is different from most of the pound cake recipes. So I've creamed that. And here again, people will say, you know, when I first read your pound cake recipes, I thought that 20 minutes was a typo. Well, that is actually true on all of our pound cakes. You beat the sugar with the butter for 20 minutes. It's gonna start bright yellow. You're gonna see it start to loosen up. And then by the time you get to 20 minutes, you've got a very fluffy, white mixture that you're working with. Okay, then you scrape down the sides of the bowl, and you're gonna add in your eggs, 1 egg at a time, and that just really gets those incorporated well each time. And so now I'm ready to go ahead and start mixing up the liquid and the dry ingredients. So on the dry ingredients, I've added my salt, whisked that into the flour. I've got that ready. And my liquid here is actually sour cream. So I'm going to start with my flour, and you want to just put in a little bit at a time, and I've got it on a low speed. And then alternate with your sour cream. And again, that's also come to room temperature. And while this is mixing around, let me tell you about the delicious strudel that goes in this. So it is chopped pecans, and I like to chop those by hand. You know, just break them apart because you get some really nice chunks if you do it that way. Dark brown sugar, flour, and vanilla. And it just really makes a nice mixture. And that's gonna go with all in the batter, which gives you a really nice flavor throughout. Oh, and I forgot to mention cinnamon goes in that as well, in that strudel mixture. All right, so I've sprayed my pan with my pan spray, and I love to use Baker's Joy when I'm making any of my cakes to just really work well with that pan. But these pans are so well coated that are from NordicWare. All of our pans were NordicWare pans. All right, so I'm gonna add in about 2/3 cup of the strudel mixture while the mixture is going around, just to get that blended well. And then I'm gonna take it off the mixer to fold in the rest of the strudel mixture. I've added the rest of the strudel. All right, so now this is my favorite part. Y'all, this batter is so fluffy. And you want to just fold, go all the way to the bottom of the bowl and just do a light fold, because what you create is just pockets of this strudel that will show up when you go to slice it. So that's why you do the majority of it last. All right. So one of the nicest things about this new Anniversary pan is it holds between 12 and 15 cups of batter. And in the cookbook, it'll tell you in a regular 12-cup Bundt pan, you're gonna not be able to put all the batter in the pan. And so I recommend that you make 4 little muffins out of the extra, because you don't want to overfill the pan. But I'm not gonna even have to worry about that in this big pan. I'm so excited about it. The reason is because this sour cream cake and the fact that you're using more butter in this cake creates more volume in the batter. It's probably one of the few recipes in the book where you've got more batter than you have room in your pan. All right, so my oven is preheated to 325. It's gonna go in the oven for 1 hour and 20 minutes. And when we come back from the break, we're gonna get started on that chocolate chip little minis. You're gonna love that pan too. So come back with me in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining me, we're doing all things in Bundt pans today. Really having a great time with some of NordicWare's Anniversary pans. We've gotten that cinnamon nut pound cake in the oven. It is smelling awesome in here. And we're getting ready to do these little minis with our mini chocolate chips. I spoke to the fact that our cinnamon nut was our September cake of the month. Well, this cake was actually our June cake of the month. You know, it's hard to come up with a cake that the guys would, maybe want to get for Father's Day. And we thought, there's not a man on earth that doesn't love chocolate chip cookies. So we came up with a recipe for a chocolate chip pound cake, and it was actually extremely popular. All right, so I've done a little bit ahead as we did before. And like I said, be sure to take out all of your cold ingredients, get them to room temperature. So we've gone ahead and we've creamed the butter and the sugar. And again, 20 minutes just gets that nice fluffy mixture that you're looking for. You've incorporated the sugar very well during that process. And then I added cream cheese, and I beat that for about 2 minutes. Then I've added my salt, heavy cream, and vanilla, and I've beat that on medium for just a couple of minutes, scraped down the sides of the bowl. And now I've added the eggs again one at a time. And people ask all the time, why do you do that? Well, one of the reasons is I don't like to have to stop and crack eggs, so I love to get them into that measuring cup. And then the incorporation one at a time gives you that volume, which is why pound cakes are so noted as a really dense but fluffy cake, is because you've incorporated those eggs slowly into the process. All right, so now I am ready to start adding my dry ingredients. So let me turn the mixer back on. We'll put the dry ingredients. And the other thing that I went ahead and did was a glaze that's gonna go on the top of these. So just to there's several of our pound cakes that have a glaze, like the amaretto has a wonderful crispy glaze, the lemon does, and so the chocolate chip, we also did a glaze. And so the ingredients there are sugar and water, and then you just let that dissolve, and then once it's nice and dissolved, you're going to turn the heat off, and in the case of my induction Wolf cooktop, once it's off, you don't even have to remove it from the heat. And I've added my vanilla and then my chocolate flavoring. Now this may be an ingredient that you have a little bit of a hard time finding at the grocery store, but don't worry, Amazon to the rescue on something like that. It's not expensive and it lasts for quite a while. All right, so in this recipe, we're using the little mini chocolate chips. That incorporates way more of that into the batter, and it doesn't take up so much space in terms of making the cake a little bit looser. So I'll really love to use those. And we always use Hershey products. And we've just actually come off of our summer camp program, and Hershey's is one of our sponsors. They are just tremendous in making sure that our kids have everything they need to make these recipes throughout the year. All right, so we're gonna fold in these chips. And I've prepared my pan with my cooking spray. I'll get all of this batter in the pans during the break. And when we come back, first of all, you're gonna have a little Vera's Corner with Flour 101 to learn what flour to use in your recipe and why. And then we're gonna get started on a savory recipe in a Bundt pan, a shrimp tomato aspic. So come back with us in just a few minutes. Vera's Corner is sponsored by TaxSlayer. It's your refund, go get it. Baking is the art of turning flour into food. Today I'm going to show you the distinction in each so you can make the right choice. All-purpose flour is the most commonly used flour in home baking. With a moderate protein content, it's the most versatile of flours, able to produce pie crust, bread, cookies, and more. Self-rising flour is flour that has had baking powder and salt added during milling. Self-rising flour is generally made from low-protein wheat, traditionally grown in the South. It's best for tender biscuits, muffins, pancakes, and some cakes. Cake flour is one of the softest varieties with a very low protein content. This makes cake flour ideal for tender baked goods, such as cakes, of course, but also biscuits, muffins, and scones. Bread flour is the strongest of all flours, providing the most structural support. The extra protein makes for better volume, a chewier crumb, and a browner crust. White Lily flour is not just a brand, but a specific variety of flour. It uses only soft winter wheat, which has an especially low protein content. This makes White Lily light and silky, which makes for lighter, fluffier biscuits. Next time you bake, you'll know exactly the flour to use. Welcome back, everybody. And you know, I don't know about you, but I think that Flour 101 is very interesting, especially if you like to bake, just knowing what kind of flour to use. And remember, all of our Vera's Corner episodes are available on YouTube, so if you ever think you might need a quick tip, I hope you'll tune in and get those ideas. All right, so we're doing all things Bundt today. And you know, we always think about it with the cakes that I've already shown you, but you know, did you ever think about putting something savory in a Bundt pan? Well, back in the olden days, I mean, my wooden recipe box has all kinds of recipes in it that were not desserts that were used in a Bundt pan. One of my all-time favorites is tomato aspic. And I have to be honest with you, I've probably not made this recipe since the 80s, but back in the day when I was newly married, you didn't have a luncheon without some sort of aspic. So this is a really delightful recipe. I'm going to show you a beautiful way to garnish it at the end. But we've added something a little different in this. You know, I always put a twist on what we're doing. And I've added shrimp to this recipe from just a plain tomato aspic to something that could actually be a main dish. So we started with our shrimp, and I've gone ahead and peeled and deveined the shrimp. And I love to have nice chunks, so instead of buying the little teeny shrimp, I like to do like a medium or a large shrimp and then cut it into pieces. So once I've done that, I've sprayed my saute pan, and I just lightly sauteed the shrimp. You can see it just starts to barely turn pink. At that point, my favorite seasoning for seafood is Tony Chachere's. Put a generous amount of that on there, and then I'm gonna get it off the heat because it will keep cooking in that hot pan, and I've just poured it into a bowl. Then you want to cut them into bite-sized pieces. And for me, it just goes really quickly if I use my kitchen shears. So I love to do that. We've gotten that all ready. All right, so the shrimp is ready to go. Now for the mixture for the gelatin. So we start with cold water and 2 packets of gelatin. And you want it to sit in the saucepan for about a minute. It's just to soften that gelatin. Then I added a can of tomato soup, Campbell's tomato soup. Everybody always has that in their pantry. And I've just gotten that nice and blended on just a low heat just to get that completely dissolved with the gelatin. All right, so I've got my blender ready. I'm gonna add that mixture to the blender. It's just gonna be a really pretty color. This is a great brunch recipe, by the way. All right. Next ingredient is cream cheese. And let that get a little bit soft. So it's just at room temperature. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on the blender. We're gonna blend this for about 10 or 15 seconds just to get it thoroughly blended. See that nice, pretty color? All right. And I can stir that one more time. But now I've got all these beautiful ingredients that are gonna go in here. So I've got chopped Vidalia onion. Celery makes it really nice and crisp. And red pepper, which actually really makes it colorful. And then I'm gonna put in some Hellmann's mayonnaise. And we just wanna blend this together. And this is gonna go in my 6-cup Bundt pan. So this is gonna fill this all the way to the top. Okay, let's pulse this one more time. And pour this in. Oh, it smells so good. This really brings back a lot of memories. And for those of you that used to be a fan of Aspic, you're gonna love to try this recipe. And for those of you that have never made it, I hope I've just given you a new idea for a brunch. All right, so my pan is sprayed. I'm gonna get this loaded up, and when we come back from the break, you're gonna see how all these Bundts come together to make a really pretty party. So come back with me in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody, and obviously we have had quite a celebration today with Bundt pans, and NordicWare has actually been part of my company for years and years and years, because just like the brands that I recommend that you use when you prepare our recipes, the actual utensils that you use a lot of times have a lot to do with the quality. And for me, our signature item was our pound cakes, and the NordicWare pan just made these turn out beautifully. So we started with the cinnamon nut pound cake today, and our pans were 12 cup. So this recipe actually made 4 extra that you did in a muffin pan. But the nice thing about the pan that I used today is it's a 12 to 15 cup. You can put all the batter in there. It just came out of the pan beautifully. And then I love to wrap it up completely with saran wrap. And you start by pulling the saran wrap out, putting the cake on top, and then just really pulling it very tightly so you've got a slick, no air pockets in it when you get ready to put it in the freezer. One of the questions that we were asked a lot is how long will they last in the freezer? And our answer was always 6 months. So that's a great thing to do when you've got a little bit of time. And then we made a glaze to go on top that has now come to room temperature. I put it into a Ziploc bag, fold over the top, put it all in, and then you just cut a little tip off the bottom. So if you don't have a piping bag, this is something that you can just work with that you already have, but you're just gonna go back and forth with this to create that wonderful glaze that will go on the top of this cake. And again, show up with this for a meeting, and you've made a lot of friends. All right, so then we moved into the little chocolate chip minis, and aren't they adorable? And these are also really great to use for like a single dessert, or they can be wrapped up for snacks. Perfect teacher gift. There are all kinds of things that you can do with this. And this is the glaze that we did that went on top with the chocolate flavoring and the vanilla. So this just adds one more layer of depth to the flavor on these little minis. Love the way those turned out. And then, wow! The star of the show is the actual savory thing that we did today. And for those of you that are close to my age, you know that we never had a party without Aspic. but you never had one that looked quite like this. So over the last few months, lots of people have been posting about Bloody Marys and how cool they are. So I love the fact that I've made this look like all the things that you would garnish a Bloody Mary. Same ingredients in this recipe. So I cooked my shrimp and my crab legs to go on top. I skewered peppers and olives and tomatoes, stuck those in lemons. I've decorated the top with my favorite Kelsner's cocktail sauce. If you ever run into that, you need to buy it. It's fantastic. So we've partnered today with Toque Blanche that has just created a wonderful gift opportunity. Please go to their website at mytoque.com and look at all the things that they have for the home chef. They're providing a 20% VeryVera 20% off coupon today for you to buy anything that you want on their website. We really appreciate their involvement today, and all of our pans that we use today came from them as well. So, you know, as I always say on the VeryVera show, no matter what you do it in good taste. I cannot wait to taste and share with all of my crew everything that we did today. And I certainly want you to come back with us next week. We're going to be doing recipes from Okra Magazine for their 11th issue. They are fantastic and phenomenal. You don't want to miss that. Please come back and join us again next week.
To see what's cooking with the VeryVera show, follow us on Facebook and Instagram and on Cottage Ketchup.